In 291 days, 4 hours and around 25 minutes, governments and businesses around the world will be very nervously watching Australia. We'll be one of the first countries on Earth to welcome in the year 2000 and find whether all the horror stories about computer meltdown are about to come true. You see, when the new year is counted in, some computers won't know how to handle the fact we've changed centuries. And experts are predicting everything from minor inconvenience to complete breakdown of modern life. The only certainty is that the big reckoning is getting closer as every second ticks by. With the year 2000 coming up, the celebrations on New Year's Eve should be spectacular. But according to some, the biggest gatecrasher of all time, the Millennium Bug, is going to spoil our party. Why have you called the Millennium Bug a time bomb?
Because we know exactly when it's going to occur, and unless most, if not all, of the computers are fixed, literally things will blow up.
One of America's original computer whiz kids, Ed Jordan, is now using his desktop to try to warn the world of what he calls Time Bomb 2000. As the clock strikes midnight and we begin the year 2000, how will this problem affect most of us?
Well, the average person may find that the lights go out. That'll be the first noticeable thing. There may be brownouts or blackouts, which may last for a couple of hours or days or weeks. But the danger for Australia and the United States and Europe is that if one or two or three plants go down, they can pull down the rest of the grid with them. And what's going to pull them down is little microchips. Again, the same kind of technology that you see in your VCR or microwave oven. There are literally tens of thousands of these in your typical modern power plant. And we've had 4 or 5 simulation tests in the United States where they've tried rolling the clock forward to see what happens, and in all of them, the entire plant is shut down.
Over the last half-century, we've come to depend on computers for the survival of civilization as we know it. They fly our planes, open our doors, pay us money. They control everything but the air we breathe, and sometimes even that. Our hospitals are particularly vulnerable to the Millennium Bug. Our investigation reveals that many of them are way behind in testing vital life-saving equipment. But it's a daunting task. Think about it. There's now more computer power in the average family car than there was in the whole world at the end of World War II. This is one of the world's first mainframe computers from the 1950s, now stored in Sydney's Powerhouse Museum. When this old dinosaur came out, computer memory was so expensive, the programmers tried to save a few spaces on the calendar. So instead of, say, 1959, it would read 59. The year 2000 seems so far away then, but now as we count the days to the new millennium, it's clear that many of the world's 100 million interconnected computers simply can't handle that calendar change. Next year, those computers will click over to 00, automatically putting 19 in front of the year, taking us back a century to the year 1900.
You see, it's now the 14th of February 2000, so my date field is 00.
The consultants working on the bug, like Pat McLagan and her team at DMR, have turned up some amazing glitches, including one that would have been a disaster for a major Australian bank. When they pushed the clock forward to the year 2000, the computer was confused by a calendar that could only read 00.
And it says this account hasn't been used for 99 years, shut it down. So the account is shut down. But every customer's account in that situation would be shut down.
Every customer in that bank?
Correct.
Would have seen their account shut down?
That's correct.
Thousands, hundreds of thousands.
If this had not been found, however many customers in that particular institution would have had their accounts shut down.
Now, the little fella who turns up at the ATM machine would be told, I don't have an account.
You don't have an account.
And that's just one of hundreds of programs in every bank. There's no magical software that can kill the bug, and these SWAT squads have to search through millions of lines of computer code to manually change the year from 2 digits to 4. While most big businesses are hard at work busting the bug, a dangerously large number of small companies haven't even begun. Is it time for urgency or sheer panic?
It's not a time for panic, Jeff. It's a time for urgency. Small businesses still have time to do what's required.
Morris Newman has a lot to worry about. Apart from being chairman of the Australian Stock Exchange, he's now in charge of leading business and industry in the fight against the millennium bug. If an Australian company has not started to deal with the millennium bug, is it too late?
If it's a large business, it's too late.
The Melbourne Command Centre of Telstra. Here, the fight against the millennium bug already has been waged for 4 years at a staggering cost.
We've estimated initially that we could spend up to $500 million on this.
Megbar Weiss-Dolev leads a team of more than 100 computer experts now working for Telstra. They have to search through a mind-boggling electronic maze, checking the embedded chips and every piece of computer software. How can you be sure, though, that with such a vast computer-driven system, you have found all of the bugs?
Look, there's no guarantees in life to the extent I think that it's humanly possible in terms of analysing, repairing and testing. We feel very confident. However, we can't rule out any possibilities. And because of that, we're putting in contingency plans that says, despite all, if anything goes wrong, we'll be ready.
Another customer that we worked with is a telephone company who discovered that they would have had a potential problem with their billing system.
When the bug busters at DMR tackled telephones, they detected the kind of glitch that could create a real millennium mess.
The system couldn't cope with the date change.
So this is the bill I would have got?
That bill for in excess of $12 million for a 99-year, 23-hour, 30-minute phone call, that's pretty good.
I would have to believe that there are going to be some major companies that are going to be disrupted and may not be able to produce for several days, probably several weeks, maybe a few months. I think a lot of small and mid-sized companies that are not taking the problem seriously enough will also be at risk of actually failing, not being in business.
Dr. Ed Yardini is one of the most influential forecasters on Wall Street.
How's the market doing?
Today it's like the first down day in 10 days.
Yeah, well, it's overdue, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
He believes that the failure of small businesses wiped out by the millennium bug will be enough to trigger a financial meltdown. Are you prepared to forecast that specifically?
Well, I'm prepared to say that there's a 70% chance of a global recession as bad as 73, 74. I could see the U.S. stock market down 30, even 40% from its peak.
And as goes the American economy, so too goes Australia's.
Oh, absolutely. A severe recession in the U.S. would feel even more severe in a place like Australia because commodity prices would really be knocked even lower. And there'll be a lot of industries that would be especially hard hit.
I would be very concerned if I were in your shoes at this point.
Do you expect a global recession because of the millennium bug?
Oh, I certainly do. I don't think there's any question at all. For example, we have 11,000 banks in the United States. They're all working on year 2000. None of them are finished at the moment. And I think there's a reasonably good chance that 10 or 15% won't finish. Now, if 10% of the banks go down, if 10% of the power companies go down, if 10% of the manufacturing companies go down, it's not the end of civilization as we know it, but it's going to be a hell of a recession, I think.
Ed Jordan has fled his former digs in Manhattan and taken to the hills of New Mexico. He's not expecting planes to fall out of the sky or World War III, but this computer expert says it's common sense to be prepared.
Well, I've gotten out of the stock market. I've moved out here. I've made a number of plans.
Do you think that we would all be better to make some simple preparations?
I do. I view a lot of the plans that I'm making as consumable insurance, for lack of a better term.
If you don't believe the millennium bug will affect you, take a look around your kitchen. Your microwave is controlled by a computer chip. The water supply to your taps is controlled by computers. So's the gas to your stove and hot water service and the electricity that powers your fridge and the lights. If you think we're being alarmist, consider this. Those experienced disaster planners at the Red Cross are advising people to have at least 1 week's emergency supplies on hand. Even the federal Senate is telling politicians and their staff to put away about a fortnight's pay in cash and to have 5 days' worth of petrol, water, food and essential medication. Are our essential services up to speed on this? Or on January 1, could we have shortages of electricity, gas and water?
It's difficult for us to get a clear fix on this. We haven't seen the transparency in reporting that we'd like to see.
Have our government agencies been open enough about the Millennium Bug? Canberra seems quite secretive.
Well, I think we're changing. I think we have been secretive, but I think that the penny is beginning to drop, that post the 1st of January 2000, all will be revealed. So you can be secretive up to the point, but that's really not going to save you at the end of the day. If we don't know until it's all too late, then it will have much greater impact than would be the case if people were open and honest at the outset and gave us time to take our own contingencies.
The Millennium Bug is not the computer's fault. It's a human error. It may well turn out to be the dumbest and most costly mistake we've ever made. How much is it going to cost Australia to fix the Millennium Bug?
Well, it's hard to get a fix on that, but what we're hearing is that the initial estimates were 5 billion Australian dollars. It's now looking like it could well approach 10 billion.
And globally?
Globally, when we started this, we were told the figure was about 600 billion US. We're now talking 1 trillion, 2 trillion, which in Australian dollars is plus 3 trillion dollars. That's a lot of money.
Some of the calculations that are taking place now are comparing this to the overall cost of World War II. And it appears that we may end up spending more. Certainly, it's now being acknowledged as one of the most complex problems in modern history, and usually solving complex problems is an expensive proposition.
Is there a danger that by being so alarmist now, you could help bring on a recession?
I do struggle with this issue, whether I'm contributing or I might contribute to making the situation more grim than it has to be. But if the policymakers can't 100% assure us that there'll be very few disruptions and the food supply will not be affected, the energy supply will not be affected, if they can't do that, then I think policymakers owe it to us to tell us that maybe we should provision to a certain extent for ourselves.